Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be doing a breakdown of the new trailer that just came out for the new Mutants, which is the Fox X-Men spinoff that has basically been kind of in production limbo for the last 2 years. It's had its release date moved back twice. It was originally supposed to come out in 2018, and then they moved it back to 2019, and then when 2019 came, they moved it back to 2020. So this is going to be coming out at some point this year. And this is kind of, even though this isn't the first trailer we've gotten for this movie, there's been a lot of evolutions of this film going forward. So as far as I'm taking this more as like, all right, I might compare it to like the first trailer or something like that, just to see if there's any significant overlap in some of the footage. But this trailer itself appears to be very self-evident, very separate from the other two. There's not a lot of repeats in terms of things we saw in any of the earlier trailers for this film. And they treat this a little bit more like a more contemporary form of a superhero movie, at least in terms of how they're portraying it in this trailer, as opposed to some of the earlier ones. But we get a monologue for this one by the doctor who's in charge of this mental health facility that we see throughout the trailer, and she's saying this monologue of like, oh, you survived and stuff like that. They center on this one female character named Danny at the very beginning, and basically she seems like she's kind of your main character. Then you have your main supporting cast around her, and she comes in and she finds out that she's a mutant, and so she gets put in this place. She gets introduced to these other individuals, 5 in total, including Maisie Williams, who's playing Wolfsbane, and I can't remember the actress who's playing Magic, and then the other ones I don't actually know what their mutant names are. I'm not familiar with them from the comic books, so just to explain, what we do wind up seeing in the trailer. Again, it has a bit more of a contemporary feel. After we get past that kind of introductory scene, then we go into the individual people themselves, and they kind of explain like what their situation was when they found out they were mutant. When their powers awakened, what happened. And most of it's just very horrible. It's like, oh, I lost control. Like I burned my girlfriend. You see like a burned hand and stuff. But I think the more interesting thing about what this trailer kind of shows us is the location itself, because I feel like the location has a lot to do with this film. Not just the fact that it's a mental health facility, but because it appears to be haunted to some extent, or under some form of control by another being, maybe another mutant. Because when we actually do watch this, we see as they kind of go through the individual people, and then they kind of flash back and forth to this asylum. We see like there's a group of people that get attacked by these little creatures in like these masks, and we kind of saw that in the first trailer when we see that scene where they go in this room and they see like one of their friends or something on the ground. So he sees their friend on the ground, and this figure turns around and it has this really creepy mask. It's kind of like this jump scare moment where they cut in the trailer. But you see little glimpses of that, but it's not really explained, which again is something good. You don't want to kind of explain the whole plot, although this does give some clarification as to what's going on here, even though we could probably discern it already from just actually watching the earlier trailers. But then we also go into the other thing that they go outside of this building and they find out that it's literally like a cage. It has a force field around it. Because it shows the Danny character actually touching what looks like kind of like a light wall and causing ripples and stuff like that. There's some kind of a force field around the actual structure that they're housed in, the asylum. And basically the Magic, Ilyana, says that it's not a hospital, it's a cage. And that makes this a bit more interesting, too, because now you understand that it's not even what it sets out to be. It's actually, this is some kind of a prison or a study center for mutants that's, under, security lockdown. Nobody can leave. And after you kind of establish that and you go through that, then you start getting into the stuff with the powers. And that is kind of interesting to see, because these are X-Men that we haven't really seen on screen before. Their powers are kind of unique from what we can tell, at least for most of the extent. But you go into stuff like the Danny character appears to have something to do with either durability or fire. They don't really out and out show her powers in this. Magic is a character. She can form a suit of armor and swords and stuff around her body that she takes from like another dimension, so she can kind of armor herself. And then a few of the other ones. Wolfsbane, who's played by Maisie Williams, she can transmorph herself into a wolf, or she can turn. It's kind of like a lichen or something like that. It's like a wolf human hybrid, but she can like channel that. And then the other two seem to be, one of them has some kind of fire powers, and the other one has some kind of like vibration or something like that, or like energy power. Um, but they do show a little bit of it here and there, which is nice, because that was again something else that was kind of lacking from the earlier trailers. They didn't show any kind of like superhero powers really. There were some things that maybe you can infer, but for the most part, they didn't show any kind of special effects on screen. And in this, it does. We also get a shot of like what looks like a big red kind of like golem-looking creature, and this might actually be the lead doctor, because in another trailer we see that it looks like she's been scratched, maybe by Maisie Williams' Wolfbane, and under her skin it looks like she has like red glowing stuff under her skin, and it kind of looks like what that red figure we see in the trailer looks like. So that could very well be her, and I'm not sure what character she's playing. But then, after you kind of go into that, then you kind of see a few little glimpses here and there of kind of just some action scenes and stuff like that. And there's there's jump scares and stuff. There's a scene where the Danny character appears to be on some kind of a makeshift operating table, and she has a mask over her face. It's assuming they're giving her some kind of anesthesia to knock her out, or something like that, to because they want to figure out what her mutant powers are. Or how she can use them. But it's not a trailer that shows too much. Again, and I think that's a really good thing to kind of keep in mind, because there's been a lot of trailers about this movie. There's been a lot of presumed reshoots. We don't really know how many rounds of reshoots this thing actually went through, because we know of 2, possibly 3, but it's been in development. It's literally, this film has almost been finished since its 2018 release date, and they've kept reshooting and re-editing the damn thing for almost 2 years now, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of version actually manages to come out of that. But this does look entertaining. I don't mind this. It feels like an interesting little kind of side note palate cleanser thing. After we had Dark Phoenix last year, which obviously left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So this could be interesting. This would kind of be a return to form. Again, this is one of those things that was heralded as the first superhero horror film. And it definitely still kind of feels like that, although it feels like they've stepped that back a little bit, again, from some of the previous footage that we've seen. But I think they could still get some scares out of this. I think they could still, up the horror vibe, even though we're dealing with children that have superpowers. And I think that they can do a good job at that. And I think this trailer kind of shows that this is going to be kind of the balance that we see, especially leading towards the end of the film. Between the horror and the actual superhero elements, and fighting and stuff like that. So overall, I thought it was a good trailer. I think it does its purpose correctly. I think it shows a lot of new footage, which is something to kind of keep things fresh in people's minds. This is not the same as the first trailer or even the second trailer. A lot of, I would say probably about 90% of this trailer is actually newer footage that we haven't seen from this film as of yet. So that was good to see, especially nearing its presumed release. Again, this thing could get moved back for another 10 years for all I know, but. I did find it interesting. I will link it in the description below for anybody that would like to watch it, as usual. And I want to know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Are you excited for New Mutants? Have you been following its kind of troubled production thus far? And are you eager to see it? Or do you not really give a shit? Fox X-Men's dead, waiting for the MCU reboot. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I'd like to know what you're thinking. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?